Hi, Jonathan from Live Love Coach. Are you or someone you know feeling stuck, searching for direction, or wanting a clearer sense of what's next? You're welcome to connect with me. Whether you're exploring practical next steps or seeking God's leading, I'm always open to a genuine, no pressure conversation.
Good morning everyone, as I said before, I'm Jonathan, Live Love Coach. You'll see on my first slide there, it says whether you're exploring practical next steps or seeking God's leading, I'm always open to a genuine, no pressure conversation. And that's kind of my tagline on my website and the things that I do. Why do I have in there God's leading? Because for me, I have a Christian faith. And part of that for me is just being able to be open to that discussion with people. Whether they have a faith-based base or not is not the issue with me. But it's just if you do have that faith base, then it creates a different conversation. I sort of liken it to people who like rugby. I'm not a rugby fan, I'm more of a car motorsport fan. But you get two guys who talk about rugby and it's totally different language. And the same thing can be with faith. It can be a totally different language. So it's just there's an option that for me is something important to share, to say, hey, this is what I provide, but it's not the sole focus of what I do. And it's, anybody can come to me. I work with a Hindu guy. I've worked with people who don't believe in God at all. It doesn't matter. It's not that's not the point of it. So please don't get hung up on that. But just know it is there, and that is my perspective. I come from a Christian perspective when I'm looking at things and how I view things in the world. So that's why I have that in there. A little bit of my background. So I was born and raised in Matamata. Grew up there. Did my schooling and everything there. Had some really good friends there and went through there. I left school and the only thing I knew I liked was metalwork. That was all I liked about school really, was going and making things in the metalwork shop. I had an idea, I did like cooking, I was in home ec. I liked that, so I thought, maybe I'll be a chef or maybe I'll be an electrician or maybe, my dad said, no, you don't want to do any of those. Chef, you've got to work too late, electricians don't make any money, go and be an engineer, then you can do whatever you want. And then, okay, I like metalwork. So I ended up going to Bay Plenty Polytech, doing a basic mechanical engineering trade skills. Left there, and silly enough, I went and got a job in December. Rather than having a summer holiday, I actually worked and got the 2 weeks off. The shop shut down, but I got my first job as an apprentice fitter welder, and did that for 5 years in a company in Matamata, and then moved on to Hamilton, chasing my then girlfriend, now wife. Over at Hamilton, and chopped and changed jobs a lot for the next sort of 5 years. Really got to a point where I just went, actually, I do not like welding at all. It bores the tears out of me. And so I started looking around and I thought, I want to go into sales. And my dad had always said, don't go into sales. You never go anywhere in sales. But I think when you're in business, sales is a key part of anything. Anything you do, even if you're not in business, sales is a big part of things, and it's quite a rewarding career. So I became a welding sales rep for about 2.5 years. Enjoyed the sales, still disliked the welding. Got bored. I was at a trade show with some guys, and they're talking about a welder like it was just the hottest machine out, and this curve and that curve, and I'm sorry, I'm out. I've had enough. I left that. And at that stage, I started looking at what business could I get into. Before I left welding, I was running Pro Bar's tow bar shop in Hamilton. I was sort of working alongside the owner. He would disappear for a month at a time, going hunting for deer. And so I'd be running the shop, looking after the guys, making tow bars, getting them in trouble because I wasn't making them as fast as the guys, even though I was dealing with customers and everything else. But I got an idea of what this running business was like. And that sort of led me after I learned the sales, and I was basically handed the keys and said, go for it. I took that region from 30,000 with two of us working it when I first started to 60,000 on my own by the time I left. And that was covering the greater Waikato Bay Plenty area. So it was a good time, really enjoyed it. And so that led me into going into business. And so in 2006, my wife gracefully allowed me to go into business for myself. And I looked at a franchise called The Cable Guy, doing audio-visual stuff. I just sort of thought, I've always had an interest in electrical componentry and that sort of thing. So I went, I'll have a look at this audio-visual stuff, and figured that my skills in welding actually did cross-relate. The ability to use a drill was a big thing. I've had a couple of guys give me a hand, and you say, can you go and drill that hole? And they're like, they had no idea. But it was just second nature to me to go and pick up a drill, run cables, do that sort of thing, came pretty easy to me. I ended up getting into a licensee group called Theatrics. Wasn't the best group overall. The guy says, I'm a business coach, I'll help you with everything. When I started getting in a bit of trouble, because I started in 2006, 2008, we hit the global recession, things started getting tight. I did not know how to manage money. I was struggling, and he just went, nah, sorry, wipe my hands on you. You're bringing the rest of us down. I'm like, well, help me bring everything up. But he just walked away. So I left that after my 5-year contract with it, left that, changed the name to Harmony Sound and Vision. In that period, that 2010, mid-2010, mid-2011, I actually went back welding, and honestly, worst thing I ever did, will never go back there again. After 6 months I should have left. After 12 months I just had a barney with the boss, handed him a notice in. He came along and says, what are you going to do? I says, you don't care, I don't want to be here, you don't want me here, it's not your problem, see ya, gone. And that's where I was at. I was that far gone with it. So I walked away, walked back into the audio visual, which I kept going in the background, and been involved in that for the last 20 years. Really have enjoyed it, it's been great. I love the customers and whatnot. Still again, doing the trade work, I mean, it's not really me, I'm kind of getting over this. I'm getting a bit older, hitting my head and wrecking my back and all that sort of thing, just kind of got, it gets a bit tiresome. So I'm like, yeah, I'm moving on. So about nearly 3 years ago now, I sort of started questioning, what am I actually doing, where am I going, and what's happening. And so that's where I moved into, the idea of becoming a life coach after looking at a few things. And so why I became a life coach? Well, as I was just sort of mentioning, it was a journey. So as I say, about 3 years ago, I went, right, I need to change things up. What am I going to do? What can I do? And of course, being a tradesman for over 30 years, I'm just stuck in the trade mindset. What other trade can I do? But I really knew I wanted to get off the tools. And I had a business coach, and I said, I want to get off the tools. So his thing was, let's push the business, let's really get going, get marketing going, all the rest. But I'm like, I'm flogging a dead horse here, I'm not interested. And so it ended up ending my time with him and going to a life coach. And the life coach actually helped me see things from a different perspective and helped me to actually work through some thoughts. And my wife had actually said to me, maybe you should be a coach. And we've been working with a coach on some other things. I was like, actually, that kind of would be cool. I had three ideas in mind. It was to be either real estate, to be working on cars, so taking classic cars, doing them up, selling them on, that sort of thing, or coaching. When I finally worked through the process and figured it all out, and I went home to my wife and said, look, I've decided I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to get into coaching. Her initial reaction was, no, you cannot do that. And this all stemmed from the fact that she works for 4 coaches, and she's like, they'll get upset. I can't have you, my husband, being a coach when I'm working for coaches. But we worked through that. They have no problems with it. They've been great. In fact, the community of coaching is actually quite supportive, I found, and that's part of what I like about that. So part of that journey was going through some personality profiles. So the 3 sort of big ones for me was the Working Genius. If you've not heard of Working Genius, it's an American-based group they came up with this idea a few years ago, but it's looking at how your working style. And so they use the acronym WIDGET. And for me, I'm a DE, that's my strength. So discerning enabler. And so what that means is that I've got just a gut feeling kind of personality. You come to me with anything, doesn't matter what it is, I can give you a gut feeling about what's going on, or whether it's a good idea or whether it's not. Can't necessarily quantify it for you, not always, but it'll be generally pretty on guard, on point. And I find that I've got to trust my gut a bit more, because I'll be looking at something that I'm working through, and I'll go, I think it's that, but actually I'm going to pick this. And dang, I knew I should have gone with what I first thought. So I'm still learning through that. Enabling is a helper, helping people, and so being in a discerning, enabling place really makes me a good, sort of coach, because I can figure a lot of wide aspects out, and I'm interested in helping you get to a better place with that. You then have a galvanizer inventor. So somebody galvanising is really bringing parties together, getting things going. Inventor is just, you'll know that person who has always come up with different ideas. They've always got a new angle they're going off on, or they've got a new business or a new hobby or something. They're an inventor. A wanderer, think of daydreamers. Those people who just seem to be lost and always come up with this great big, life questions, and you go, where'd that come from? They're a wanderer. They're just sitting there thinking about it. And tenacity. My wife has tenacity. She is a finisher. You give her a job, if she cannot finish it, she gets really upset. She loves to do her job and finish it, put it aside, move on, tick off the box. I don't care. Tenacity is down the bottom for me. I can start a job and come back to it 3 weeks later. I'll be fine. It doesn't worry me. I keep on moving. The other is the disc profile. This is quite a common one. Disc is more focused on your personality in terms of you're introvert, extrovert, you're a task focused or people focused. For me, I'm a IS, which is very people focused. I'll call myself an ambivert. I'm quite happy in a crowd standing up here talking like this, but I'm quite happy at home doing nothing, being on my own. Introverts generally there's quite can be a bit funny around the introvert extrovert. People sort of get hung up on the fact that introverts are those people who hide in the corner and never want to talk to anyone, but actually I know a lot of introverts who are more social than I am, but they go home to rest, whereas an extrovert will go out to rest. And so that's really the big difference, and so I'm happy in either way. And then open flames, it's Mark Bunting, he does communication, how you communicate. And so I'm an orange blue flame. I'm very close in most of these things like this. I'm very close in I flip-flop between what one is sort of strong, and so I'm an orange flame. So storyteller, loves to carry on and talk like I am now. Do that sort of thing. Not so much detail and whatnot. My wife's a white flame, very detail orientated. Almost not quite bullet point, but certainly if you go, hey, we're going out for dinner, she'd be wanting to know the time, the place, the people who are coming, all that sort of thing. Because I'm like, we're just going out for dinner. It's fine, we'll go. And so that's those profiles helped me understand who I was and where I could go and what I could do. So what's the purpose of coaching? So I put this above the line, below the line example that's often used in coaching. And so you have your oar above the line. So you imagine an oar, you get in a rowboat and you're rowing yourself with your oars. What are you doing when you're rowing? You're moving, you're going somewhere. Below the line you've got your bed. What do you normally do in bed? Well, you go to sleep. You don't do much. And so you have your oar with ownership, accountability and responsibility. And that's where your coaching really lies, is in that taking ownership, being held accountable, taking responsibility and actually getting you to move forward. Whereas you're underneath the line, you're looking to blame somebody, you're looking for excuses, you're denying, it's never my fault, it's always somebody else, it's all this, I didn't have time for that, all this sort of thing. And so with coaching, we want to try and get you above the line, help you move forward and really get going. And so, stop you making excuses on that. So, who's my ideal client? I've got Daniel. There's no Daniels in the room, so that's fine. So Daniel's a high capacity, values driven man in a season of transition. He feels stuck, unclear, wants a grounded, faith aware, no pressure space to find clarity, identity and direction. So if you were trying to be specific, that would be what I'd say is very, it's the specific, narrowed it down, this is the man, that we can do. But I work with ladies, men, women, everything is across the board. But somebody who's, I went through a period where I was stuck, feeling sort of, who knows what's going on, and that's where I sort of fit in. I can understand that and help people move past that, understand who they are, where they're going, what their purpose and direction is, and that's really where my passion lies. So how can you work with me? I offer one-on-one sessions, weekly sessions, monthly sessions, fortnightly. There's lots of options there. We can do a block. You can do a 3, 4, 6 week block and just come along and really do an intensive on a certain thing or a certain area of your life or what you want to work with. I'm going to be working on group meetings, so to put together actual bigger groups working together on a common focus, and just working through that. And so I just do a clarity call to start with. You can sit down with me, no charge, no obligations. Have a chat and see if we fit together. If we're compatible in terms of personality and understanding, and if you think you can, I can help you. Because for me, coaching is not about what I can do; it's about how I can help you. And so you need to feel that you actually going to get something from the relationship. So that's where what I do and how I want to help people. Get above the line, get those oars out, to get moving, feel like they've got a direction and where they're going. So basically that's me. So I want to discover who you are through focused learning, meaningful conversation. And as I said, my coaching draws on Christian values with compassionate, faith-based approach. That's me at the top of the Haka Armadas just on Saturday. I do enjoy it, my wife and I do it pretty much. I've done it for about the last 10 years, pretty much every weekend. This one here, if you remember Saturday, if you were in Hamilton, it was a crap day. It was fog and it was, you could barely see 100 metres ahead. Got at the top there and there was people standing to the side of me and I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I do. Got my wife to take a photo. But for me, this is, we got above that cloud, we've got above all the fog, and we had, we had this clear view. And we couldn't see the land, but you could just look out and like you could walk over the cloud. For me, that's what coaching is like. You're beneath the fog, you're stuck, you don't know where you're going, but you get to the top of that mountain and it clears up and you get a clear picture, you get a clear view and you just go, yes, done it. You've got a direction and purpose. So that's me. If you want to hear more of my ramblings, I have a Spotify, YouTube channel. Jump on there. I do a weekly podcast, as I call it. Jump in there, all sorts of different ideas I'm throwing around, and love to help you guys or anyone you know. Love to help them with some coaching and being able to excel and move forward. So it's me, done.